leadership, and we're going to continue, we're going to move forward and talk about a survey of multicultural education, media images, and expectations of minority group members on campus.
When we speak on multicultural education, the question arises of what is it? And it focused solely on equality. Equality is really important when it comes to multicultural education because they want to focus on these diversified groups, different cultural people with different cultural backgrounds and different values, and understand why these values exist. With multicultural education, cooperative learning is really important because when you enhance cooperative learning into your daily routines, it kind of follows you outside and inside the classroom, which is really important. And we also found that people who incorporate cooperative learning with their daily activities, they're more subject to view others' beliefs and actually alter their own. With the values of multicultural education, we found that, like with colorblind methods of teaching, it's not really useful because we see that different multicultural educators tend to be hesitant with their teachings and kind of become biased when they're viewing different subjects that they don't quite agree with. So with values, we have critical race theory, which is equitable, and it shares within powers within the classroom. Multicultural education works towards becoming more inclusive within the classroom. And now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Micah Johnson, who will now speak in regards to misrepresentation in the media.
All right, so let's take a focus on media and understanding how dominant media and the news is in our culture. How many watch the news? All right, so I'm sure that we all look at the news, different perspectives, different news sources, but we have to understand that the local news dominates this culture. One important fact is we're going to take a lens and understand that in the United States, media and the news is seen through a white-only perspective. So we see a lot of misrepresentation of minority groups, underrepresented populations, such as the black community, such as communities of different ethnic groups, the lesbian, gay, transgender culture, as well as just any people who are not from this country. We see a lot of negative stereotypes or misrepresentation. So we need to understand that the media is distorted and it reinforces those negative stereotypes. Since back when, even prior to the civil rights movement, we've seen a lot of negative portrayals of people of color. For example, black people have always been seen more so as criminals, more so than they are as have heroic characteristics. But white people are seen more so in the light popularly as victims. But if we look down in a research study that I read, Chicago had an equal amount of perpetrators, but there were more blacks seen as the perpetrators than there were whites in the news media. So it's easy to get a judgment on a certain type of people from the news here because the dominant people that give us the news are white-only perspective. But however, there have been great strides and positive strides in showing the underrepresented populations in a more positive light, such as we've seen more movies coming out with stronger female roles where they are the leaders in the movies and not necessarily play a submissive role. And I think that is very important because we want to empower all people. So having more movies that we have a lead character as a female, that shows positive strides in the media. Also we have, for example, we have the daily shows or different shows where we have people who actually talk about those issues, necessarily global issues that we don't hear from our mainstream news stations. So we get another perspective that is not necessarily the white perspective, but a non-white perspective, so that we can kind of make our judgments based off of not just one side of the spectrum, but a holistic side of the spectrum. Also, we see a lot more women's rights sensitivity. So we see more acceptance on allowing women to make choices with what they want to do or how they want to take care of their own bodies. And I think that's also a great benefit. Also, we see more visibility of transgenders in television shows and movies, and not being necessarily villainized more so than they have in the past. Also, we see a great example of many successful families of people of color. We see great shows that are coming out nowadays, such as Blackish, where they show a complete family, and we don't see those normal stereotypes of black families not having a father, or you know, just any stereotypical children, all the children are in part of gangs, or any negative stereotypes. Also, we see, like I said, strong female roles as well. So we're enhancing the prevalence of multicultural education in television for children. We're seeing more television shows that show, that give different languages, and they're more bilingual. We encourage bilingual opportunities for our children, and I think it's great that we start at a younger age to provide them and expose them to these different ways of life, so that when they grow up, they'll be able to understand and appreciate different cultures. Also offering more reports and research on issues that the mainstream largely ignores.
Here I will present the methods that we were able to find, well, the process of finding our information throughout our research. Throughout our research, we did research on a liberal arts campus, and through rain or shine, we had to get these surveys complete. So we went throughout classrooms, interrupted people's studies in the libraries. We went through different student unions to get 99 perspectives on multicultural education throughout the campuses. 90.8% of the total population was between the ages of 18 and 24. However, participants varied across race and gender. The majority of participants were white, 63 students. The minority group population included 23 African Americans, 6 Hispanics, 2 Asians, and 5 students who identified themselves as other. Students also varied by class, including 23 freshmen, 32 sophomore, 28 juniors, and 16 seniors. Although more than half of the surveyed population, which was at 62 students, reported not taking the multicultural diversity courses, which is a requirement in order to graduate. And 56.3% of the seniors and 53.6% of the junior population reported that they did take multicultural diversity courses, but they couldn't tell us exactly what those courses were. And we know for a fact, knowing the curriculum, they took those courses. So we found that that was interesting.
Also, if you want to follow through, we provided you with basically this poster behind me that gives you that information. You can see a few of our graphs and our survey results, and we'll talk to you about our research findings already. So we had 3 objectives, and objective 1 was our perception of minority groups and members. We wanted to see what our students' perceptions were of minority group members and how concerned they were with multicultural education. And our hypotheses is as follows. Student participants are concerned about multicultural education. Our objective number 2 was to see the perception of multicultural education on the specific campus that we surveyed. So our hypothesis was student participants should be exposed to multicultural education on campuses in courses and campus activities. So we're talking about those multicultural and diversity courses that are required of all of our students at our institution in order to graduate. They have to take at least 1 MD course, and this happens within their first 2 years at the institution. So it's great that they will get exposed to that. But as you'll see, some of our students didn't even know that they were, they just kind of signed up for that class because the advisor just told them, hey, you need a multiculturalism and diversity course. So a lot of them as we found in our findings, weren't really even aware that they have taken one or had they not taken one. And also, objective number 3 is, what are the student perception of multicultural education in the media? And our hypotheses was student participants believe media representation of minority group members are negative. If you like go to the next slide for me. So within the objective 1, our perceptions of minority group members in multicultural education, I will utilize my notes because of the data. Consistent with the literature review, a large majority of our participants, 89.9%, understand the value of multicultural education, which entails learning about cultures that are distinct from their own. So these students understand that it's important to learn about multicultural education. They understand the importance of having these multicultural and diversity classes. And through these classes, we see that students get to understand that they totally disagree that minority students are not responsible for their hardships faced. So as you can see right here, we have about 65% of our students disagreed with the fact that minority groups are responsible for their hardships faced. So they understand that it's not the minorities' fault that they are in these situations that are oppressive or these structural racism structures that cause students to be oppressed and people of minority groups to be oppressed. And also, likewise, students understand that structural racism and discrimination exists. 65% of students agreed that minority groups are not responsible for that. A large majority, 76%, believe it's important to offer positive solutions to resolve interracial conflict. So this is when our Department of Multicultural, which I'm the graduate assistant of, our Multicultural Department of Student Affairs, we throw these events where we expose our students to different events or different perspectives. We bring in guest speakers from different walks of life to expose our students to understanding and appreciating other people's cultures, where other people come from, whether their socioeconomical level is higher or lower than theirs. For example, at this specific institution, we brought in a Holocaust survivor to talk about their story and about their suffering, and students really were receptive to that, understanding that, you know, you need to understand historical oppression to appreciate the opportunities that you have today. Only a small group believed that minority groups no longer experience injustices, which was 70%, and 37% of our student population has reported witnessing experiences of racial discrimination on campuses. You go to objective 2 for me. So perceptions of multicultural engagement on campus. This hypothesis, once again, a lack of diverse faculty may result in lesser diversity initiatives on campus. So 30% of our students recognize the efforts to engage multicultural perspective, but 40.5% claim that opportunities to engage multiculturalism were too limited. So we might have them in these required 1 class to graduate multicultural classes, but they're basically saying that they don't see enough going on campus from all their faculty or faculty and staff teaming up together to create more exposure for difference and appreciation of different cultures. Also, participants' decisions were divided about the availability of courses that provide information about power inequality, whereas 26.2 had negative interpretations, 40 were neutral, and 30% had positive attitudes about our course information. So the students that understood that they were in these multicultural and diversity classes appreciated what they did for them. And I think that was a great strides for just the culture of that campus that you have a stereotype of when you see a campus and the demographics of a campus, and you would assume that these students don't appreciate it because there's lack of diversity, but they do see they appreciate it, and they do see the benefits of having that multiculturalism. And only 5% of the students reported a lack of concern about the rights of all people. Objective number 3, please. So perception of multicultural engagement in the media. We see negative images presented in the media increase negative perceptions of minority groups among college students. Almost half the participants believe that media does not offer the solutions to promote multiculturalism and blame minorities for the economic hardships. Only 10% believe the media promotes justice for all people regardless of racial and ethnic identities. And also, all views about the media were not negative, though. Just like we said, there are some positive strides in social media and social justice initiatives in the media that are showing us that there are some positive strides. We have more people speaking out about injustices globally, and we're seeing a more appreciation for difference in this country, so I think that is great. Almost half of the participants report learning about injustices experienced by minority groups in the media. So they're getting that exposure, and they're being able to have that opportunity to make their own decisions and make their own decisions on how they view and accept others that are not like them. However, perceptions about positive exposure differs. Many students, 44%, believe the media has done a poor job creating awareness about the value of cultural attributes of minority group members. So, as you can see, we have about 70% of our students think media promotes justice for all people, regardless of racial ethnic identities, which is not really that good, because we want to have that number on this side of the spectrum, because we want students to think that the media is providing them with some positive reinforcement on diversity.
The findings he recently stated is from our studies, and it led us to these 5 dimensions of effective multicultural education. And implying these will make a more productive and more successful institution, whether it be schools or just different institutions that are diverse. With the use of content integration, you would just use various cultural resources to incorporate knowledge and in different cultural resources to make sure that each student can either relate or just attain the knowledge from the information that's given. Knowledge construction can be practiced through considering different perspectives through your readings. So, like I said, stated with the content integration. With the knowledge construction, the only difference is you're just promoting various different styles throughout your teachings within the classroom. Equity pedagogy. Equity pedagogy focuses on equality. So many of these definitions may seem like they're stating the same thing, but they all go beyond one step that the other has not. With equity pedagogy, the teacher will alter the way that they teach, whether they need to spend more time with particular students and to actually understand, and when they actually understand these students, they actually understand the values and their cultural differences. So with that being said, they can actually adjust pertaining to these minority groups within their classrooms. With prejudice reduction, just as it says, you reduce prejudice within your teaching methods. So you, instead of pointing out these distinct groups and these diversified groups, you would state, okay, although these groups are different, this is how we can come together and understand this material. This is how we can come together and understand what each culture has been through. And then the empowering of school structure. In order for this to happen, the institution has to come together as a whole. The staff has to come together as a whole for it to be incorporated throughout the institutions. Empowering students who are not part of the dominant minority group can really make a difference in classrooms, because when you're incorporating this with the students, they can carry it outside the classroom and actually put it into their day-to-day activities and incorporate it within their day-to-day lifestyles.